The following program, Inside the Square, is rated M for mature audiences. It contains coarse language.
When we won, quote, Federation Square, it was and still is our only building.
In the beginning, I don't think that we realised the enormity of the task.
I mean, I think quite a lot of people, probably thought Peter Davison was mad. After a few months I did.
I don't think anyone fully understood or appreciated the complexity of what it was we were getting into.
Look, the story of architecture is the story of clients driving architects mad.
It's challenging stuff. It's not square, it's not straight, it's not rectangular. I think we found 2 square walls on a drawing once and we told the architects and they changed them. So
The story of Federation Square and how it became the landmark it is today involves 6 hard years and more than 5,000 people. Behind every bit of the distinctive triangular facade, every wall, every window, there's a story of battles, disputes and decisions as the creative vision of the architects clashed with the demands of time and budget.
I say to the faint-hearted again...
It all began in 1997 when the Victorian Liberal government under Jeff Kennett held an international design competition to create one of the great civic, cultural and commercial spaces on top of a railway yard which forever had separated the city of Melbourne from its river. A jury unanimously selected 2 unknown London-based architects from 177 entries. Their radical design soon divided community opinion.
It's just dead ugly. It's a shocker.
It's an appalling waste of public money.
At least it's a bit different. I'd rather a park with a nice fountain.
One of the most vocal opponents was the then Labor opposition, which likened it to Godzilla. Eager to complete the project by the centenary of Federation, in 1998 the government began construction of Australia's biggest public project before the designs were finished. By the following year, Jeff Kennett had lost office and a Labor Premier, Steve Bracks, took power. By 2002, the project is more than $200 million over budget. It's 2 years behind schedule, and with an election due at the end of the year, everyone is under pressure to get it finished. At the centre of it all are the 2 architects, Peter Davison and Don Bates of Lab.
Well, there's a parcelling out of different sites.
Over the past 6 years, they've been on the steepest of learning curves. Despite 25 years of teaching architecture, working on other people's projects and honing their ideas, incredibly, neither had ever built anything before.
When we won, quote, Federation Square, it was and still is our only building that we've ever done. Not just under our name, but in the sense of being responsible, not just assisting somebody else, but it being our responsibility.
We were novices in really what it meant to realise something. We had our first meeting on the project the morning after the announcement by Jeff Kennett, and we sat in this meeting that was of civil engineers and structural engineers discussing the liquefaction ratio of Coode Island silt under earthquake conditions. And Don and I think we can remember looking at each other being entirely perplexed and thinking this was a dream. And at a certain point, one of the engineers said, "Hang, you've only just started on the project, haven't you?" And we said, "Yes, this is our first meeting on the project." And they stopped it, and someone went and got a bottle of champagne. And we resumed it a week later.
Morning, everyone. Sorry. I'm late. Okay, well, let's start at the beginning.
Monday, 8 a.m, and Peter Seamer, the Chief Executive Officer of Federation Square, is chairing a weekly meeting with the builders and the architects. Seamer was appointed by the Bracks Labor government to bring the job in on time and on budget. With neither looking likely, Seamer is in no mood for excuses.
Well, it appears this is affecting a number of other things than what was a building that was well situated is now a building that's now, you know, like this has to be open when we open. So is there some way that you can actually knock this one on the head, get it resolved, instead of, like, how many weeks have I been sitting here listening to this conversation about leakage?
It's been a big task trying to locate the actual leak.
Yeah.
On the agenda today is the issue of leaks, a minor irritation, but one which has the potential to further delay the project.
I think what we're looking for is an answer to the problem. So when will you come back to me, Tony?
Today.
Okay, thank you. The programming of the project has been a nightmare. It's just, you may get promises made to you and they never get kept. They just never get kept. And that's an awful good reason, you know, and it is very frustrating. And that's not a problem with the builders, and it's not a problem particularly with the architects. It's just the nature of the complexity of the thing that's so immensely frustrating. For someone who's used to sort of saying, this is what we're going to do on this day, oh, you got my word for it, it doesn't sort of work that way sometimes on these big projects. But no one's built a Federation Square before.
Unlike Sydney's Opera House, the design competition for Federation Square was not about a single entity, rather a multitude of uses. Restaurants, cinemas, bars, offices, and a huge public atrium set around a central plaza, providing the meeting place that Melbourne has always lacked. The brief for the competition, which comprised 2 stages, was considered vague by many of the more experienced entrants, but Peter and Don, who had teamed up with the local firm Bates Smart, found it played to their strengths, which are experimentation and flexibility. So, when the Kennett government hastily added the National Gallery of Victoria's Gallery of Australian Art at the end of the competition stage, the architects from LAB were well placed to cope with such a major addition.
The gallery was included as part of Federation Square on the same day as we were announced as the winner. So we were announced as the winner of the competition, and then it was, by the way, all of this has now changed. We were told subsequently by the chairman of the jury that one of the reasons why they felt comfortable giving the competition project to us was that we were the only people who had changed their design from stage 1 to stage 2 of the competition and changed it dramatically. So they felt that we probably would embrace another lot of changes. They always use images before that was built.
The reams and reams of hand and computer-generated drawings illustrate the arduous process of design and discovery undertaken by the architects. It's as if they discovered the power of geometry that takes these lines off the page and into another realm. Federation Square is like nothing that's gone before, and its facade, its signature feature, says it all. Not just angular, but triangular, unpredictable, utterly random wherever the eye roves. It simply looked different.
We were interested in coming up with a system through the triangular grid that we could use through a very small palette of sandstone and zinc and glass, and yet create a lot of variation, a lot of variety, something that you could spend a lot of time looking at, and every time you saw it, something else would emerge and be a bit different.
I always thought in the back of my mind it might default to a bit more commercial reality. It all looked a little bit too way out there, and I thought, nah, the beam candles will get in there and they'll knock this, they'll get this back into square, and all these angles, you know, forget that. But I remember looking at it and thinking, you know, if this could go ahead, I thought, wow, this is going to be pretty amazing sort of work.
I don't think anyone fully understood or appreciated the complexity of what it was we were getting into. And walking around, you'll see for yourself. I mean, there are no vertical faces and right angles and all those normal sort of things.
Realising the vision of the architects has been a constant battle and one that's often led to conflict.
But the problem here is that, you know, where we've got the glass, you know...
On their many site visits, Peter and Don regularly check the work done by the builders and their army of subcontractors. When mistakes are discovered, architects and builder are very far apart.
It's ruined. What can you tell me about the hand grinding of the ground floor foyer sandstone? Do you know about this? Why have you allowed it to happen? You can never sand that floor by hand to get the same effect as you would through the production of the stone. It'll just be marked. I mean, you just wouldn't do it. I understand, but what they've done is just vandalism, thinking that no one will care or it doesn't matter. It's just absurd. It looks like a different stone now. Okay. It's like part of the problem is that we don't think it's a problem. We allow it to happen. Whose fucking idea is to do it that way?
Don't worry.
Because you're going to take up every single one that you've damaged?
No, because...
That's damaged. Before you touch the floor, you ought to get all of the information that you possibly can about it.
Hence,
which means talking to me.
I would much rather converse to you on a face-to-face level,
Well, when I
rather
come
than
down here and
have
find
cameras and so
that kind of thing happening on the
face.
building.
I
didn't set it up.
This is at all right. I don't think this is the right forum for this to be happening.
Yeah, but sure.
It's not professional.
I walk into the building and
it's
find
just
that.
grandstanding,
I don't think that done to the floor is professional. So don't tell me about that.
Yeah. Okay. We are wrong. We have had a problem. We've had a problem with a particular area of stone, and we are in the process of rectifying that.
Well, I don't think you should rectify it till you've done tests. And you don't do tests on the finished floor, you do them
we
elsewhere.
should go and discuss that inside. Thanks very much.
It'll be all right.
This is the first...
Turn it off.
Peter's probably more emotional and gets emotionally charged into a situation, and the passion wants to win. Not that I'm, you know, I think we both are quite passionate about what we do, but I probably have cool passion and he has hot passion.
I mean, I think quite a lot of people, you know, probably thought Peter Davison was mad. You know, well, after a few months I thought this guy, he's got some great concepts, but he's out there, and he's going to be a real challenge to harness, if that's the word, and I don't think he can be harnessed.
The architect's role and their intellectual responsibility is to fight and fight and fight to maintain their vision. And little bits get chopped off all the time. But if they're only little bits, it's not too bad.
As winter sets in, Peter Seamer takes the Premier, Steve Bracks, on a tour of the site. It's his first in nearly a year, and he's none too pleased that there is still a long way to go. He wants it finished before he goes to the polls. Having opposed Federation Square when in opposition, Brack's relationship with the project has been anything but comfortable.
This is where we welcome visitors to Melbourne and all Melbourne people. Right. So there'll be a desk here that we man for extended hours, and people will come.
I think this government has had to convert themselves to liking a lot of things that Kennett initiated. It is amusing and slightly ironic to see Bracks down at Fed Square because he has to be there. You know, he has to embrace Victorian projects and he has to be seen from a business perspective, from an economic perspective, to be supportive of the businesses that are down there and of the project in general. It is amusing to watch the fact that they had to do an about-face.
All right, lots to go through today. Perhaps before we go through the normal items, few big ticket items I want to talk about. I had a chat to Peter last night, and I think we're going to struggle to get there by late September. So let's talk about what are the implications.
Stanley Arcos heads up the marketing and events team at Federation Square, a job made more difficult by the fact that an opening date is yet to be fixed.
Now, look, are these change of dates, are these causing you problems around town?
Yeah, I think they can, they will. And it's an issue that we've got to manage. We can't sort of keep making promises and not delivering, which is hard.
Okay, all right, okay, but just keep going, because if you just can't show weakness on something like this. You've just got to be assertive about it. You've got to give people confidence. You can assure we will get there. You've seen what we've done in the past. We will work through there, okay? But we'll just do our best. We'll do our best, etc. It's a lot harder than people think. And the problem we've got, it's hard anyway, but the problem we've got is we've got a moving target. And the analogy I often use is we got a big plane. Okay, it's got a bit of turbulence problems. One of the engines has fallen off, and we're trying to land on a runway, but that runway is moving. And so every time there's a delay in the program or a change in the program, people think, oh, it affects the building program. It affects everyone's program.
Crucial to the project is the atrium, a complex asymmetrical glass and steel structure which forms the entry to the gallery of Australian art.
The issue at the moment is manpower. We're just trying to speed up the process of completing the North Atrium. They're trying to get us to complete by the end of the month. Multiplex, we're having a meeting with Premises Eliza and DMS Glass to see if we could increase our manpower, or maybe even do a double shift to try and complete this area, because Federation Square are putting pressure on us to get it complete.
As the project drags on, tempers start to fray between the builder and the subcontractors. Archie Lang is under pressure. Again, the issue is leaks.
It's not an issue. We'll do it as an as-built.
Oh, that's fine. Is it still leaking though? Can you fix the leak?
No, it's not our problem. It's not our leak.
Sorry?
It's not our leak. It's not our problem until HM finish their works, and we believe it's not our problem.
Where's the water coming from, Dave?
At the moment, the temporary seal on the capping's done.
Yeah.
But we can't say that's 100%.
Well, it better be.
We're 95% confident that it is.
It better be, because that's the underflashing.
Well, is the
That's
water...
why I don't believe it's our problem.
Is the water still getting in?
From somewhere, but not from our flashing.
All I'm saying, Archie...
We've got an under-flashing on, and then
Archie,
we've got
fine, okay,
flashing.
it's not your flashing, okay? If it
Right.
damages the ceiling, it'll be your problem. So just what you do is you get hold of Dave and let me finish. HM Metalcraft, and as before, we'll resolve the issue.
We've been down the path a few times with this one. I'm saying it's not our issue.
You need to make it your issue, okay, Archie? All right?
David will sort it out.
All I'm saying is, Archie, fine, you walk away from it, fine, okay?
It's not a case of walking away.
All I'm asking you to do, all I was asking you, Dave, and Dave from HM Metal, we've got the problem.
Well, we've looked at it.
Well, we've got to find it, Archie. We can't keep on building with leaks in the roof. Have a talk to Dave about his concerns, please. His concerns, and look at them.
We've looked at it.
Well, look, Archie, look at Dave's concerns, please.
You got your list there? I've got my list. Subject to uncertainties at the start. I would say there's, I don't know, 30 significant attractions in the first 60-odd days.
A giant finger painting event.
Well, you want a community, didn't you?
Yep, absolutely.
How much more community can you get than finger painting? I've got arts, I've got community, I've got cycling, I've got marathons, Melbourne Festival, New Year's Eve. Now, I know New Year's Eve is months later, but New Year's Eve is probably the first time the precinct will be pushed to the limits.
The interface between the project and these things worry me, because I can't give you a date, and I won't be able to give a date for another. Well, I give dates, but how absolutely sure can we be that we're not going to strike another problem on the atrium or something like that?
You just tell me the date. Whenever you've got a date, Just do your best to give me as much warning, and you know we're all ready to mobilise. The thing that gives me...
The biggest problem on this project has always been time, just the amount of time it takes to do things. In a normal project, you can probably crank things up and put a lot of people into various areas, you know, bring in another 10 crews and get something going. It doesn't work like that here because you've got to do the designs first. The designs are still happening right now.
Many of the problems on the project go back to the very beginning. After all, the project was started before the architects had finished their designs. In such an environment, confusion abounds, and the number of times the builder requests information from the architect increases dramatically.
The documentation has been fragmented. As a result, we've got a lot of requests for information to clarify items, a lot of architects' instructions clarifying bits so that we can continue. And all of that has caused a lack of continuity of work, frustration from the contractors, frustration from our own people.
I mean, I think it'll go down in the annals of building history. I mean, there was just wave after wave of RFI to get the precision that we needed to manufacture out of the architects. We're up to, I think, revision AK. That means we've gone A, B, C, D up to Z, and then we've gone AA, AB, we're up to AK for the door schedule. I mean, this is pretty stressful documentation processing. And I think it's a credit to the teams down from both sides of the fence, actually, that no one's been murdered through this process.
Tony Cosma's frustration at the paper mountain that was produced in the course of the project is understandable, because the complexity of what we were trying to achieve was hard to do in a fast-track way. You also have to acknowledge that builders play games. They ask for things that are on the drawings because they use RFIs as a way to beat up on you. And this is part of this, the negative aspect of, I think, some parts of construction, is that it's based on an adversarial model.
Theoretically, we have 50 mil.
But many of the revisions are not of the architect's making. Rather, they are the result of changes to the design, the most significant of which occurred in 1999 when the newly elected Bracks government scrapped a key part of it, plunging Peter and Don into controversy and Federation Square back into the headlines.
How would you feel if you were told your work was brilliant, but it had to be changed? That's what happened to the architects who designed Federation Square. The government's decision to scrap one of the controversial glass shards has angered and frustrated the designers, who've now been asked to remodel the site. They say the new government is just trying to leave its mark on the project.
From the moment the design was selected, it was the focus of controversy. The two glass towers, which the architects believe would frame St Paul's Cathedral, were seen by others as obstructions to a sweeping view of one of Melbourne's most celebrated icons.
We have had an independent assessment of what we think is appropriate in protecting the vista onto St Paul's Cathedral from St Kilda Road, and I think it's a correct decision, one which can take us forward.
It's a bit as though somebody said about the Sydney Opera House, look, why don't we just take one sail out? It won't make any difference to the composition and it'll save a lot of money. I mean, people should learn not to fiddle with decisions that are made that are good decisions and which are producing good architecture.
Here was a project which had been judged by its peers internationally and locally. It had gone through quite a lengthy public consultation process about all of its qualities. And then halfway through the building process, we're going to remove a piece.
Now, all the architects in town supported LAB on this issue. Everyone. There was general hysteria around town. People were highly emotional. There were public meetings and T-shirts, and we all wore things about Western Shards written all over us. And they got a huge amount of support. They lost.
The refashioned shard was significantly lower in height than the original, grossly out of scale with its counterpart. The whole episode was a bitter disappointment for the architects.
Because it was only seen as a singular object. Well, we can obviously just change that one and it won't hurt the rest of the project. Well, actually it did hurt the rest of the project. Not terminal, You know, it didn't make the whole thing fall apart, but it still continues to affect the rest of the project.
Every day I see what was the Shard. I see this building there that's not doing its job properly, that looks like it doesn't belong. There isn't a day when it doesn't occur to me that wrong, wrong, wrong.
There are gaps. If you can start moving those people forward.
The project is losing momentum. Peter Seamer arranges for a team photo to be taken as a way of boosting morale and raising the square's profile. Good headlines are needed.
If I can get you to take your hard hats off now so we can see all your faces, please. Now I'm going to try to get you all to smile on the count of 3. Give us a big hello. 1, 2, 3.
There's Tina right in the front. Isn't that just typical?
And Simone, great big smiles. Peter Davidson was just near us.
Peter was just near us. Exactly right. He was near us around here somewhere. There's the chairman, right in the middle. There's me, hiding away.
Judith.
Oh, what a collection of people.
But the architects are still far from happy, as they believe their vision is being badly compromised.
The front part of the atrium was meant to have a ceiling so that you could actually read the frames against the contrast of a white ceiling that would match the rest of the interior. But again, allegedly in order to save money, we've got rid of the ceiling altogether. And so this is the main entry part of the atrium. And what you see is the underside of the metal deck and the big chicken wire. And somehow, you know, and all the edges as it runs around, it just looks unfinished at the main entry part of the project.
Well, I think traditionally the builder and the architect come from opposite sides of the fence, and I think the history of architects and builders, pure architects, I'm not talking about commercial style architects where it's all about square metres and rental returns. I'm talking about real detail architects. They will always be in conflict with builders because we can always find a way to do it cheaper and we reckon look better and we reckon more functional.
I guess for particularly the last 2 years, there has been a struggle to maintain what we call the architectural integrity of the building. And project managers come up with design suggestions more often than you would really like them to. You look at the outcome with the plaza, with the Kimberley Stone. I went to endless meetings where it was desperately proposed to me that concrete would be a better outcome and we could get sort of, you know, colour effects by mixing colours in concrete. It seemed to me that concrete tiles in a significant public space was a wholly inappropriate suggestion. In a way, they seem to sometimes think of architects as kids and buildings as lolly shops, and you should be pulled out of it as quickly as possible.
As you can see.
Finally, Archie puts his differences with Dave aside for the good of the project.
This is the critical area.
This is where the water's coming in, yeah. Dave's suggestion of a C-channel, which is fixed to the primary frame of the crossbar, will allow us to put a positive seal from the glass into the channel and allow the water to go away into the gutter.
Sounds good to me. I guess we got to get the approval from the architect. And to make sure that David's from HM Metalcraft, the plumber, is happy with that, with that profile, if he can achieve that.
With the project inching towards completion, Stan is worried about how Federation Square will be received by the general public.
Since we last saw each other, I have had countless number of spinning bow tie PR merchants coming in here promising me the world. They have all been very politely shown the door.
The door or the river.
I do. I think we're thinking as one. I don't think we need to spin the bullshit.
No.
But also, there's a danger. I don't think we can be too cool, because there's a danger. I think if we're too cool and inaccessible, if you target yourself to the black shirt brigade, as I call it, the cool, fashionable inner city set, people like me, you'll be fine for a few years, but you won't be in 10 years. And we also have a obligation to the government But we also know commercially, if we don't get virtually every aspect of society embracing at least some part of Fed Square, then we won't be an icon. We'll be a fad.
With the Bill Henson and Peter Booth room, we've used one of the darker blues.
The Gallery of Australian Art is the most keenly anticipated space at Federation Square. It's very much Peter Davidson's baby, and not only has he designed the gallery spaces, its furniture and display cases, but he's come up with a radically different way of hanging the art. With problems flaring elsewhere on site, the gallery has become a welcome refuge for Peter.
The gallery is different because the gallery is concerned with visual things. They are concerned with the quality of visual things. And so from that point of view, they have been enormous supporters of the architecture and the concepts to do with the architecture.
It's been a great privilege to work with Peter Davidson and the whole team at Lab, and I think we've understood from day one what they're trying to achieve with the building, and at all times we've felt that it underpins what we want to achieve as an art museum.
But not all of the clients are happy with the architects. One of the biggest commercial tenants at Federation Square, Paul Mathis, goes to the press to complain about designs for the pub which he is to operate. He threatens to pull out of the project if the perforated metal screens, which he likens to fly wire, are not changed.
This was always going to be here. I knew this was always going to be here. But what we didn't know is what effect it would have until we actually saw it. Now, standing here, one would prefer to see down St Kilda Road, let's face it. Melburnians deserve that view. It is the only view of St Kilda Road from this vantage point. Why on earth would you want to cover it with a metal perforation? It faces south, so there's very little justification in terms of sun shading. It is not particularly going to stop rain coming through. It's not going to particularly stop drafts or... I mean, there's no real protection issues. It's purely an aesthetic thing.
You know, I mean, particularly with Paul Mathis, it's really very frustrating because, you know, a design will have been agreed and all the parameters will agreed, and then he'll decide from, you know, from a commercial point of view or a personal point of view or whatever, that he doesn't like it. And because he has a commercial relationship with Federation Square, he can make demands and they tend to accede to those demands no matter what they are.
Look, the story of architecture is the story of clients driving architects mad. You read the letters of Leonardo or Michelangelo, these men are weeping, saying, what has the Pope done to me? He's doing this, he's starving me to death, he's ruining my vision, he's changed his mind, he's delayed the project, he's cut it out. This is the story of the history of architecture. These are big things. They make big contributions, but they haven't grown painlessly.
Okay. Now, thumbs up. I want yes and no's. Just a few catchphrases to occasionally go with sort of, you know, posters and other things, etc. Do we like that?
I like it for a tram. I don't know about how it works generally.
We're playing with?
I like this one.
Well, you're crossing all demographics so people can relate from various perspectives as well.
Many
so
have argued that our events budget is potentially that too, isn't it?
Virtual, not real.
That's right. We have to create it from opportunities. Simon's doubtful?
I'm not keen on that one.
That's it, yeah. I think you've got to be sort of...
Yeah, I don't get it. Am I supposed to get that?
It's
well, we're all vaguely young here. Shh, don't you love show
that's
and tell?
for the kids.
Everyone loves show and tell.
But it's to go back and say, I went to this magnificent place, Federation Square, and that's what it's all about, to show people Fed Square and then for them to go away and tell someone else about it. That's a scary concept.
That's a scary concept. Throwing that one away.
But more than clever slogans will be needed to win the hearts and minds of the general public, many of whom simply don't even know what Federation Square is.
I haven't worked it out yet. Oh, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Huh? I don't think no one else does either. Huh?
It looks pretty good. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good whatever it's going to be.
I don't really know what it is.
What is it exactly?
Just a heap of metal, really, just stuck together.
I like the way it's all like artistic and put together.
Looks like Lego blocks.
I think it's a monstrosity.
Looks like jail. This is the ugly building in Victoria.
Terrible. I would scrap it. It cost the government millions of dollars, and it's junk.
You do become the butt of an enormous amount of relatively uninformed and often unfair criticism. And however hard you try not to take it personally, there are times when some things invariably do hurt.
While the public may be having doubts about the quality of the architecture, visiting American critic Charles Jenks is far more enthusiastic. It's a much-needed boost for the architects.
The one way it's very different is it doesn't appear to be sculpturally assertive and look at me. It doesn't make those grand gestures that the icon like the Eiffel Tower makes or Bilbao makes. And I wonder if, in that sense, it would be very hard to put it on a postcard, a single shot of the building, or to make it the symbol of Melbourne, or the symbol of the New Australia, or the Sydney Opera House. I mean, it's dispersed its high imageability into the whole fabric.
There's a certain confidence in this building. We know what we're doing here, even though we're young architects who've never built before at this scale, if at all. It's extraordinary that there's such confidence here. It's overwhelming, actually, that you can go from 0 to 100 miles an hour without having gone in between the intervening speed.
Are we now ready to activate this place?
But I've just got to make sure that we open it right, that we've got all of the natural ingredients are there. We don't do a Barbara Streisand concert, you know.
Look, if I was you, what I would do, I think you've got to call the date. Call it as it is, and then everyone will follow.
Yeah, you call your date, but
they're forced to.
It's great in theory. Everyone says, just open it, you'll be amazed what can happen in the last week. That's all fine, but I've got X man-hours of bloody work to do out there on every little bit. I've got to do it. I've just got to get it done. I've got to get the people there. I've got to get them organised. And you look at the program, they can't do this, they can't do that. We're already working shift work. What else are we going to do?
Finally, Peter Seymour settles on the 25th of October, and shortly after, Premier Bracks calls the election. The race to the finish has begun, much to Peter and Don's dismay.
An artificial deadline was created, and that had to be met. In our view, that deadline was set months earlier than it should have been. And so there was a sense of it doesn't matter how it happens as long as it happens. And that meant, inevitably, that the quality of certain things was lost at the end.
What they did is they changed all the set out of these stone tiles. And they're each sort of blaming each other. It's being driven by multiplex, saying, how can we lay this wall quicker? The problem is that these guys just don't work holistically, and they threw away our drawing, and all of these things were solved on the drawing.
He's seen it.
He's seen it?
He knows it.
Jim, the detail of the stone.
The vertical stone.
The vertical stone.
Yeah.
That's now got stupid little slivers put in there because multiplex changed the detail. The stonemason agrees that that's not the way to do it, but he's been instructed by multiplex to do it that way. You're going to stand there all day. It's like at the end of Reservoir Dogs, standing there all pointing at, blaming each other, rather than doing the job properly.
Peter, everyone has got a mountain of work to do to finish this project for when the...
There's no reason why this should turn into auction squad and just tossing it out everywhere. There's no reason why that should happen. I'm not asking for the coursing to be changed. I'm asking for whenever you get those tiny slivers to just set it down so the stone has a minimum depth. It's a very simple thing that will get rid of that stupid little detail where there is actually more glue than stone.
Well, OK, I hear what you're saying. You do have to have a thick skin, because if you've not, then it could all become very personal. And, you know, you really can't afford to let it become personal, because it clouds your judgment. And you can't afford to do that. Things are moving too quickly, and there's too much money.
Stan and his team have moved to their new headquarters on site at Federation Square.
Good afternoon, Federation Square Management. Karen speaking. How may I help you?
Hello. Oh, it's okay. You know, we're worried. Sort of a bit of has architecture gone too wrong here? Like, it's the sun. I think I'm going to get a bit of a tan here all day. It's not often you get an office with 3 sides of the glass. I can see all of Fed Square, and all of Fed Square can see me, but I can't actually see any of my colleagues. And I'm one of those extroverts. I feel very lonely, if you know what I mean. So I can't see Emma, I can't see anybody.
But Stan's cheerful mood is short-lived. He's angry about a weekend newspaper story in which the architects accuse Peter Seymour, Stan, and the builders of cutting corners.
The timing couldn't have been worse, because just when the contentiousness was subsiding and people were focusing on the nature of the project and how special it is and how beautiful it is, this has suddenly reminded everyone that there's a bit of contentiousness that, you know, will dominate the airways rather than the completion of the project. But they're sort of basically saying that the project hasn't gone as they expected, and the outcome is a compromise. I personally think that's, you know, somewhat disappointing, because I know that, you know, it's pretty hard to get 100% delivered. And I think we're going in, you know, we're in the high 90s.
The comments that we made when we made them at the end were an expression of the fact that we were no longer able to, in a sense, get our voice heard or get the things done properly.
The architects might be getting to the end of their tether, I think. It's been a really long road for them. At the core, the architects are creative people, and I think that at times they've found the frustrations of politics have just got in the way.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Maybe let the phone call slide with it. Yep.
Just stay there for a minute and have a look whether you like it.
The gallery is nearly ready to open, but all is not well between the artist, curator, and the architect. The problem for the curators is that the artist flatly refuses to hang his photographs according to Peter Davidson's unorthodox layout.
Is there a point of accommodation that doesn't disrupt bills?
The point of accommodation will be if the very conventional symmetry of this wall can be somehow broken. Yes.
For what particular reason?
None in particular. Only to placate him, and that's not even necessary.
You know, it does, because
well,
this
I mean,
one
I think
actually goes up much higher. So I think it is. It does break.
I think my decision on this is fine.
Good. If our role has been a provocative one in some senses in the hang, it's simply because we are closest to understanding its spatial possibility. But that's also something that we have to let go of. This is just us being involved the first time to show a series of things that are possible. After that, people can discover other things to do with the building, and I hope that would be the case.
Alcove glazing, I expect to start this week. Those glazing panels are to be brought in.
With the opening only a week away, the pressure is getting to everyone.
They are working late each night, and they've been working right the way through weekends too. And we have additional crews fixing bluestone.
Okay, well, it looks shit-ass now, so what's it going to look like on that day? No, it's not. I can tell you that much. It's not going to. Can we have a talk about this? Yeah, great. And we'll do better than that, Tony, because it's just not... This is something you've been working on for 5 years, and you're going to have the most critical bit of it with thousands of people wandering around looking bad on the day. We've got to do better than that. Let's talk. We'll have I'll arrange a meeting after this. We'll talk about what we can do.
The finishing off of the project and the rush to get it finished for the 25th means that there are things being changed, there are things being dealt with that are not necessarily in accordance with our documents. That's not to say that they won't come back and do them properly later, but they're taking shortcuts.
Even the normally placid Don Bates is showing signs of irritation.
When they were putting up the zinc, we had done a detail with the zinc contractor so that where the grills are, where the ventilation comes in, we actually had a nice sort of minimalist detail that fitted in with the rest of the project. Somehow these grills were holding up the whole project, and so instead of doing it with the proper grills, they just went out and got the most basic type of air grill to cover over these openings. So you have this incredible space, which a lot of design and effort has gone into to make it quite special, being here on the corner, and we have grills that most people wouldn't have in their house.
realistically, the end date wasn't moving out. If materials aren't available, if you have one particular detail that's going to take you 3 days to do, and maybe a struggle to get it right, then if you change the detail, can get it done quicker and end up with, in what your public's viewpoint might be a better detail or something that they don't notice is incorrect, then to my way of thinking, then that's a positive.
I understand the way the world works. I know that we can't have everything we want. I know that we're over time and we're over budget and we have huge responsibilities. But I also am desperate to maintain the quality and the integrity of the design and of the building and of the built fabric as it ends up. And it you know, it hurts me to walk around and see something that's been done wrong and has been allowed to remain.
It's the day before the official opening, and with extraordinary timing, the architects launch another scathing attack on the builders and how they've gone about their job. Peter Seamer is singled out as a bully.
Me bullying Peter Davidson, now that's a novel concept. That really is, that's one out of the bag, that one. Did he say that? Oh, that's what he said, that's what he said. It is a team effort. The architects have got their job, the builders have got their job, and when you get one group going off, firing off, having a go at everybody else, it undermines everything. It's disappointing, but that's, you know, there's all sorts of personalities on a project, and you just take them as they come.
Finally, after 6 years, the day of reckoning has arrived.
That's a bit scary. It's the real world. I saw the first dog urinate here before. That's a sort of sign reality is setting in. That's fantastic. Really, really good. I think it's more relief. I think everyone thinks it's happiness, but when you spend years and you come to a climax, it's just relief. You just want these sorts of opening events to just come and go and let us get on with the business of actually running this place.
Thousands flocked to Melbourne's Federation Square for the opening of Australia's biggest public project. 6 years in the making at a cost of $440 million.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's really exciting. It's, you know, it's amazing that it's finally happening.
Ecstatic, really. I feel like we've climbed up a huge mountain and now there's an incredible view from the top.
Complaints about the final result not being faithful to the design put to one side for today. For the most part, it was breathtaking architecture capturing imaginations, even for those who once had reservations.
I'm a convert, and I say to people who are doubting, come down and have a look and make up your mind then.
It's time to celebrate, and the atrium plays host for the first time to the A-list. As 6 years of toil and tumult come to an end, old foes bury the hatchet.
When we opened Fed Square, that big night where we had Deborah on there and then there was the Saturday following, I think my main emotion was almost a non-emotion. There was certainly a feeling that, oh yes, we've survived this challenge. And it was a hell of a challenge.
Come Monday morning, the party is over. The public delivers its verdict.
Thanks, Rosemary. Federation Square, menace or masterpiece? Overdue and over budget, but does it work? Will it be an icon for Melbourne? Peter, hello.
G'day, Neil, how are you?
What did you think?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah?
I thought...
what in particular, Peter?
Look, the atrium was beautiful. I was there in the late afternoon, the sun was streaming through. Neil, I love it. I was there a couple of times on the weekend and I thought it was outstanding. Just an awesome effort by all the people concerned.
Oh, good morning. We went to Federation Square yesterday.
What did you think?
I think it's weird.
Weird?
I think if we have to resort to surrealistic type architecture, I think it's a shame.
Hi, Neil. I thought it was fantastic.
I was a bit worried. It seemed to me to be ticky-tacky. I got the feeling that it's not going to weather well.
And I stood there for about 20 minutes looking at it from the middle of the road.
Are you still having nightmares, Rose?
No, I thought it was wonderful.
Did you?
The vastness of it. And I thought it's wonderful for Victoria and also for visitors that come back to the city centre.
That entire weekend has to be one of the thrills of my life. Just to see people flowing up the plaza as if it was the most natural thing, sitting down, lounging on the grass, doing all of those things. In a way, treating it not as if they were sort of discovering it, but as if it had always been there and was just part of the life of the city. And yeah, it was absolutely fantastic just to be a member of the public and sitting there and just watching all that unfold.
And that they owned it. You know, that it was no longer somebody's project. It was part of the city. It was part of their precinct that they could inhabit and they could occupy.
In the month after the opening, 500,000 people had visited the square. Within 3 months, 700,000 had passed through the gallery alone, greatly exceeding expectations.
Welcome, everyone!
At last, it seemed, Melbourne had achieved what it had always wanted, a great open rallying space where thousands can congregate.
In terms of Australia, there's no other development quite like it. The Sydney Opera House is a single function building, but this is a huge public space, a huge addition to an already wonderful 19th century city, and I think internationally it should be recognised as such.
Everyone's saying, wow, isn't it going well? They weren't saying that for 4 years, so you should try and see the bullet holes in this body. It's hard, but it's exciting, it's exhilarating, personally fulfilling, but exhausting.
In December, just 2 months after opening, Steve Bracks is re-elected. His next term looks secure. Federation Square's long term looks assured. But what about the architects? Despite all the adulation, what will become of them?
The future for Lab, I don't know. I think they may be a one-trick pony. I hope for their sake they're not. Unless they win another competition, they're going to have to learn the skills of dealing with clients and building up a practice, of actually getting a body of work around them.
Actually, I asked Peter Davidson once what he would do after this, and you know, I think he was really scared about if he was ever going to build anything ever again, because he'd started big. You know, where do you go to from there?
We have no definitive ongoing work to do, and that's beginning to surprise us.
So, what do you think of Federation Square? You can let us know on our website at abc.net.au/FedSquare. And the programme is available on video from ABC Video Programme Sales. Phone 1300 650 587. Stay with us now for Late Line.